In the last Lok Sabha elections, Chaukidar Chor Hai slogan just did not work. People refused to accept the fact that a Congress party, which is mired in several corruption controversies, could actually point a finger at the Prime Minister and say that he is corrupt. Now we are looking at the next Lok Sabha elections, which is still some time away. But this week I'm asking a question that the main contender wanting to be is the Trinamool Congress. But will Mamata Banerjee's expansion plans be derailed by the ED and the CBI probe against her and her nephew, General Secretary, and very clearly the heir apparent Abhishek Banerjee? I am Pallavi Ghosh and this is the focus on this issue and this episode this week. When Mamata Banerjee first came to power, she was seen as someone who was down to earth, Hawaii chappal, a crumpled cotton sari. She epitomized someone who was simple living and she would not encourage any corruption against her. Well, over the years, the Naroda scam, the Shauda scam started emerging, and in fact, in the last state polls, this became a big issue which the BJP used to hit out at her. Clearly, that did not work. There are multiple reasons which I feel is responsible for Mamata Banerjee's win. One of them, of course, being the deeply divided BJP, the sustained attack on a single woman, an issue which was actually capitalized by the Trinamool Congress, and the women voters actually came out en masse to vote for the Trinamool Congress. But we are looking at a different TMC now. It no longer wants to be seen as a party which belongs only to Bengal. It wants to take the giant step ahead and emerge as the main contender to the BJP in the next Lok Sabha elections in 2024. But it also knows it cannot do it alone, even if it expands beyond Bengal. And that's why Mamata Banerjee is pushing for a united front. She may deny it, but the fact remains she certainly would want to be the face of that front because she's taking the lead. And what is she doing? She's now shelved the plans of going and expanding in states which are completely unknown territories, where there's a cultural and a language problem as well, whether it's UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and so on. She's now focusing on East, which also gives us our comfort zone. And therefore, you'll notice that even though elections in Tripura is only in 2023, the work clearly has begun. First of all, the language is not an issue. Large number of Bengalis over there. Tripura can be a footboard for, a sweep or entry by the Trinamool Congress into other states in Northeast, in Assam, for example, Nagaland, Manipur and so on. But most important is that Tripura is ruled by the BJP, and if she manages to defeat the BJP in 2023, then she certainly hopes it will set the tone for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. But there's a problem there. The problem over here is that the heat is on her party. One, on the post-poll violence of Bengal, where the CBI probe has begun and multiple FIRs have already been filed, and arrests are taking place and will also take place. Apart from that, the Enforcement Directorate says that they have clinching evidence against Abhishek Banerjee and his wife. Now, you may counter this by saying that the corruption allegations against the two of them did not seem to work in the state polls. But the national level is a different narrative. One reason why, despite the fact that some people may not be completely happy with the way the central leadership is going or the BJP government is going, because they're talking about, say, a job loss or, rising prices, still at the end of the day, most of them, they agree that we cannot call this regime corrupt because the Prime Minister is above board. He has a clean image and therefore the NDA has a clean image. The Congress lost out because it was unable to counter this narrative. Look at Rahul Gandhi pointing a finger at the Prime Minister. It's like calling the pot calling the kettle black. You need to look at the mirror. Therefore, the Chaukidar Chor Hai narrative just did not click at all. And this was something which was actually conceded by many within the Congress party, not just after the electoral results, but even when I would speak to them during the campaign, they said this is not going to work at all. It's actually going to help the Prime Minister. Now, here is where the TMC narrative comes in. Okay, it did not work at the state level. There were many reasons why she won, and not only that, with a larger majority this time round, where the BJP, of course, had to cut a sorry figure as far as the Bengal state polls is concerned. But at the national level, certainly the BJP is going to start attacking, and I think the preparations have already begun because they are not a fool. They understand that Mamata Banerjee is emerging and could emerge as a chief contender, and therefore you'll notice that in the run-up to the next Lok Sabha elections, there actually will be a building up of all these cases. I'm not saying that they are those deliberate or political witch hunt, but there has been evidence the CBI has been gathering, the Enforcement Directorate has also been gathering against Abhishek Banerjee, and that's exactly going to be the pitch of the BJP. The focus is going to be shifting from the Congress to a TMC, and this is the question which the Prime Minister will be asking when he starts campaigning for the next Lok Sabha elections is this the kind of party you want to vote for? Is this the kind of front you want to vote for, which is led by the Trinamool Congress, because the TMC is soaked in corruption? Is this the kind of India you want? And that is why I'm asking this question this week, that will that entire CBI probe, will that entire Enforcement Directorate summons actually stall or slow down the expansion narrative which the Trinamool Congress is pushing forward with? It's actually a mixed feeling, and I'm seeing those mixed reactions, yes and no. Many people are countering and saying that, how can you say that the NDA is going to be completely above those corruption issues? Fair enough, possible. But corruption is never an issue in Indian politics, fair enough. But that doesn't always work at the national level, because mind you, the Prime Minister's campaign and a political kind of knowledge and acumen and strategy is very, very smart in more ways than one. And he's certainly going to use this against the Trinamool Congress, as he has effectively used it against the Congress party in the last Lok Sabha elections. Also, the way the voters vote at the state level is completely different from the way they vote at the national level. At the national level, this whole issue about look at Mamata Banerjee, look at Abhishek Banerjee, they are mired in so many controversies, and indeed did a corruption take place, the coal scam and so many Naroda and Chowda scam. Also, you are noticing this style, while now Mamata Banerjee is going to spend a lot of time outside of Bengal, where she's going to try and work on this front, and Abhishek Banerjee is now playing a very, a larger than life role. He's now no longer going to be just another MP from the TMC. Now, it was very interesting that just a few days back, at a speech, he actually dared the Home Minister Amit Shah, and he spoke not just in Bangla, and he was speaking in Tripura, where of course has a substantial Bengali population. He was speaking in Hindi, where he actually tells Home Minister, मैं आपको दिखा दूंगा कि मैं त्रिपुरा जीतूंगा आपके आंखों के सामने. Now, this is where the ED summons, the corruption narrative against him, can actually work to the benefit of the BJP. At least the BJP is going to make an attempt at it. I know 2024 is a long way ahead, lots can change. But if you're going to talk about immediately, will it slow down the process? Because the TMC top leadership may have to spend a lot of their time firefighting these summons, these allegations, and also talking about political witch hunt. Which is also why I think one should never ever underestimate Mamata Banerjee, because she understands the rules of the game. Now, unlike Rahul Gandhi, who kept on talking about, favoring few journalists, Soot Boot ki sarkar, and also about the fact that Chaukidar chor hai, he was actually hitting the BJP where it would not even hurt it at all. Mamata Banerjee is smarter. She would not want to hit at the BJP on the corruption issues. What she's trying to do is picking up people's issues. Like, she's talking about the fact that monetization means that it could be job losses. She's talking about the fact that this whole COVID vaccination program is such where the common man or the poorest people are not getting it. See, therefore, demonetization also a big issue. So repeatedly, she's talking about the economy, she's talking about jobs, she's talking about these factors which she feels will have a resonance. The moment you start talking about corruption, and frankly speaking, in private, the BJP would love her, the Mamata Banerjee as a contender for 2024, to talk about corruption, because that is where her soft spot is. And that's the reason why I feel the CBI probe will gather momentum. The ED summons may actually unravel many serious allegations against Abhishek Banerjee and his wife and some of the senior leaders of Trinamool Congress. The TMC would make sense to steer clear of these entire issues of actually hitting back at the BJP on the corruption. Firefighting, of course, and defense would be required, but the more it focuses on joblessness, need for a GDP growth or better economy, and how monetization can hurt, is actually on safe ground. Which is why I think it's going to be a mixed kind of a situation, because we are really talking much, much ahead. The CBI probes, the ED summons may catch them off guard, but a lot will now depend on how Mamata Banerjee actually plans her strategy ahead for 2024. And the first big litmus test, of course, will be Tripura elections. Over there, mind you, she's not talking about corruption so much. She's talking about the fact how the local flavor has been diluted by the BJP. She's taking advantage of the fact that the BJP in the state seems to be little and somewhat divided, and therefore she has begun early. If the Trinamool Congress wins Tripura, it will be a huge march ahead. And for her sake, many of our advisors and our political strategists feel steer clear of the corruption issues of finger pointing, because this is where you also need to look at the mirror. Don't make the mistake which Rahul Gandhi made. That's the advice the political strategists are giving to Mamata Banerjee, and she's a good listener. At least that's what the Bengal election shows. I'm seeing your reactions coming in, deeply divided, early days yet, but keep your reactions going. This is what we focused about this week. Next week, I'm going to be back with much more.